New to the team. You probably remember the moment when if you ever have switched jobs, and most likely you have switched jobs sooner or later in your life, or you just started somewhere. At some point in life, you had to start to work, and the moment of entering the room, you don't know anyone, you don't know the organization, you don't know absolutely nothing, you don't know nothing about the organization. So you have to deal with that. However, being integrated into a team can be quite challenging. As soon as you have new people on your team, you have to onboard them. However, most onboardings only focus on factual aspects, how to do the work right, how to get the job done. Being able to get the job done does not automatically mean that you arrive in the organization properly and that you actually become part of the team. Integration is a very important part of being successful at work. You can be the best person on a subject matter. However, when you do not integrate into a team, you're usually less successful, you're less happy, productivity goes down, and the likelihood of someone leaving your organization, usually within the probation time or a bit sooner or later, this likelihood goes up. And the happiness, satisfaction, and productivity goes down. The only thing actually that significantly goes up is the amount of days they are not in the office, because they tend to call in sick quicker when they don't really like what they do. Not because they don't like the work, but they don't like the way they didn't arrive in the team, and they don't feel part of something bigger in that organization. So what do we have to do here? So first, when we look in the cases, we have to distinguish. When you, for example, have people who just finished their vocational training, or they start their vocational training, or people who just came from university with little or no experience in the real world work environment, that of course means they don't know much. So this group is a group where you really have to focus on telling them how to do things. However, I often see that people just take one approach and try to put it over anyone else and use it for absolutely any group. No, it's not just one group there. So first, you can have people who just start their vocational training, or people who have no experience whatsoever. The second group are people who already have the experience. They probably worked somewhere else before. So you have people who at least know something, most likely, about the industry you work in. And then you have leaders. Leaders who either have their first leadership position, but most people, when they switch jobs, will have had some sort of leadership qualification and experience before they work for you. Now we have to know how to deal with these three groups. Let's start with the first one. When you have people who just finished their vocational training, or they just go straight from university out of pure theory with no experience, that of course applies to some, not all of them, but some, and they start to work for you. One of the worst moments is when you ask them, or you tell them to say, as soon as you have any questions, please tell me. When people have no idea how the world of work is going to work for them, and you tell them, just ask questions. When I don't know anything, it is very hard to figure out, to ask for something that I don't even know exists. So you really have to put your mindset on the level of saying, what do I have to tell people who have absolutely no idea of what we do here, how the industry works, how the working world works, how this team works, how what we do works, how the software works, absolutely anything. You have to start from the point of not assuming that someone knows something. It is better to tell them something they already know, and they say, look, I already know that. Cool. Tick the box, move on. Because quite often you will have moments where they say, yeah, I think I knew that, and they didn't. They are just happy that someone told them. Never assume that someone knows something just because of what you try to guess out of your own experience. Quite often when we have more experience, and especially when we have a lot of experience in a certain job, we forget important aspects. And that is due to the fact that we lost the critical distance to know these are aspects other people do not know. We just assume they know. And that is challenge number one when you deal with people who just start out in the working world. Let's go to group number two. When you have people who already worked somewhere, so they have some experience and some skills, or maybe even a lot of experience because they had 2 or 3 jobs before, you hired someone who's very experienced. Having the knowledge, great. Having the experience, amazing. However, it all can be very different. By the way, even in the same industry, it all can be very different because you are a different organization. Just because in the old organization they worked for, they said, okay, this is all going to be done in the way ABC, and you say, no, we do XYZ, not ABC. Can be different processes, different ways how to deal with certain aspects, how to deal with clients, different ways of communicating, different guidelines, probably a different regulatory and compliance aspect that you have internally decided upon, different best practices, how to deal with them. And then there are always a lot of different unwritten rules, things we do and things we do not do. And figuring these out without really knowing that they are there can lead to very awkward situations. So be sure that all of the aspects I just mentioned before are part of your not only onboarding, but your team integration program. The third group, leaders. Many people think, well, leaders is probably the easiest one. And no, it is not. Often people say, well, you're a leader, you already have the power to do something, you are able to decide something, so just fit in there, you will find your way, because as a leader, you can deal with anyone in the way you want, and that's exactly the problem. You often only strengthen their formal legitimization. The formal legitimization means you're a leader, you have power, you even have legal power over other people, telling them what to do and what not to do. And these kind of rules often lead to the opposite of what you want. Often people suddenly say, okay, look, we see that you know that you are formally a leader. However, I do not follow you. I see that you play with power. I see that you deal with me in a way that I feel like a second-class citizen in this company or in your team especially. When the leader does not integrate, then people will first be less happy, be less productive, and again, the absenteeism will go through the roof. And that means what you have to strengthen is not the formal aspect of leadership, but the social legitimization. When someone is socially legitimated, they know you are, what they say in Latin, primus inter pares, you are first amongst equals. You're part of the team, we love to work with you, you lead the team, however, you're part of us, you are one of us. And that is important for quite a number of aspects. So what are the company's values? What is the history? Are there any kind of legends that happened in the past that are carried forward for months or years, maybe even decades? And of course, you integrate into something new as a leader, into something existing as a leader, but you always have the option to create something new, which needs to be done carefully. But of course, as we know and spoke about last week, innovation is important. So you see, integrating leaders is equally challenging. And when we now talk about these three groups, there are common mistakes I frequently see, and we have to talk about these three main mistakes. So number one is people say, yeah, we have an onboarding process here. It's called, my door is always open for you. That phrase simply means you seriously do not care. People show up in your organization, you have no flipping flamingo to give about their future in your organization. You say, my door is always open, but as you have daily business to do, your door might be as open as you like. It doesn't mean that you're available. People have to desperately walk through the organization, question people left, right, and center, trying to somehow figure out to somewhere blend in. And that is not what people like. When you say, my door is always open, and that's your plan, you do not care, and you fail on any single level of onboarding and integrating someone in your organization and your team. Massive failure. So when you say my door is always open, it means you do not have a structured and you do not have a documented plan how to onboard and integrate people. And now, with what I just told you, having a structured and documented plan, that's the homework you need to do now. Second mistake, you think there is one method and you apply the method for absolutely anyone. So you have a one-size-fits-all solution. I can tell you, only when you talk about these three groups, trainees or people who graduate from university with no experience, if you have employees who switch jobs but they have the experience but they are new to your organization, or leaders, these three groups already need three completely different approaches to being integrated into teams. And I haven't even covered diversity aspects. So for example, when people have different health aspects, different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, language differences, neurodiversity, etc., 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 you need dedicated approach, at least if you care. You can, of course, say, hey, we don't care that much, but please, then do not complain when no one shows up to work for you. So you need to be able to have a tailored approach to every single person that needs to be integrated in your organization and integrated in the team. Because, as I said before, onboarding on the knowledge side does not mean that they're integrated. And the third main mistake is, and that is something which I very frequently see, you do not want to integrate people into the team. And of course, now many people will speak up and say, no, I have an interest because people need to be profitable and happy and they need to be productive, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but you don't want them to be integrated. You want them to be assimilated. And that's a massive difference. Integration means you fit in somewhere, but you also bring in your aspect and you somehow form the future of the organization and the team by yourself as well. You become part of something, but you also add something to the whole. When you now say, no, we have a certain way how we do things and you just align with how we do things, we are not going to change anything we do, that means you don't want integration, you want assimilation. You want that people give up many parts of how they want to work, how they want to communicate, how they are, of their personality. You want them to give this up just to blend in with you. And I can tell you, if you think there's only one way, the usual approach is called my way or highway. When you go down that route, you will struggle very quickly in the future. You will not find talent because people simply say, when you expect me to assimilate, that is not a way I like to work. So how to do it better? Wrapping this all up. In the US, you often hear of buddy programs. The slightly more formal way is a mentoring program. The problem is that many mentoring programs are led by only one person. So you enter the organization, someone tells you, hey, your mentor is Jack or Cindy or Mandy or Peter or who else. And this mentor will guide you through the whole process. The problem is this mentor often only works in one department and they have an interest in what they want you to do and what they do not want you to do. And that's a problem because there's a conflict of interest. Of course, you want your own department to run smoothly. You will always tell them any aspect of integration that is in your favor. So a mentoring program has to consist of different people who help people to sustainably become part of an organization and part of a team by getting all different points of view on the same subject matter. When someone says, look, we have task A, you need to have a point of view from manufacturing, from production, from procurement, purchasing, from marketing, from sales, from the leadership area, from the technical area, from the operative area, from your colleagues, absolutely anyone, because then you really see the whole picture. And as soon as people see the whole picture and you have a great mentoring program with different qualified people in place, then people will integrate in your teams, be very happy and very productive, most likely for decades to come. And I wish you all the best doing so. And of course, now some people will say, well, that sounds challenging. It's because it is. Let's have a chat if you like. If you like to contact me, nb@nb-networks.com is the email address where you can contact me anytime. You also will find my LinkedIn, which is both the email address and my LinkedIn are mentioned in the show notes of this podcast. Looking forward to connecting with you and hearing from you. The second aspect, which I always recommend, is we have live sessions. When you like to talk live, we have at least a live session a month. Available in English and German, by the way. So when you go to expert.nb-networks.com, then you see that you can just enter your email address in there. You only receive one email, no worries, every Wednesday morning. It's 100% content, ad-free guarantee. In this email is the date and the time of the live sessions. You don't need to register for them. For our readers and listeners, it's of course free of charge. When you only click on the URL you see there, then you will get access to the live session that we have. And the last aspect number 3, is apply. So the most important aspect comes last. Apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspects that you obviously want to have in your organization. Looking forward to hearing from you. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.